Hello, and welcome to AI is Giving Misogyny an Update. And it's the darkest iteration yet. This is Honey Badger Radio. My name is Allison. I will be your host for this examination of a feminist article about how the new thing is the worst misogyny ever. And we as you if you're a longtime viewer of Honey Badger Radio, you know that the new thing has been coffee houses, bars, D&D, games, asking for women if they want to go to coffee in an elevator, shirts with pinup models on them. Every new thing is the worst misogyny ever. But we're going to find out how this is different because this really is the worst misogyny ever. Women most affected. All right. So I have my little video queued up. Let's just make sure everything is going right. And if you would like to send me a message at any point throughout the show, you can do so at feedthebadger.com/justthetip. It's the best way to send us a tip and the very best way for you to send us a message. If you send me a message and you feel like it hasn't popped up quick enough, just tell me and I'll poke the holes, and usually that gets it to go through the chute. And if you would like to support us, specifically our meetup, please do so at feedthebadger.com/events. I don't know if you're putting the animation up, Brian. That might be just, too much for just posting. But anyway, it's feedthebadger.com/events. The meetup will be September 13th, Calgary, Alberta, Canada. All of the information is at that URL, feedthebadger.com/events. And you can RSVP, and you can also support it because that's really critical so that we can actually fund these events. And yeah, I think it's important for us deplorables to meet in public and realize that we're not that deplorable. All right, let's begin. Speaking of deplorability,
AI is giving misogyny an upgrade, and it's the darkest iteration yet. Would Sir like his AI sex doll with or without her head?
If you've been watching our streams lately, you know that we've covered this dark romantasy event called Sin and Stardust, in which multiple sexual assaults of male talent took place, including a whole bunch of women stalking a man down, cornering him, and group sexually assaulting him. Right? And apparently, according to longtime members of the romance community, this isn't a one-off. This is a persistent problem in that community. So I just want you guys to pin in your mind a couple things. One, there is a very large, like romance is the largest genre of written fiction in the West, possibly the world. So it's a huge genre, lots of fans, really big influence on culture. In fact, if you want to understand the influence on culture, you can open up any fantasy book now. And if it does not have erotic content, it's part of a dwindling minority. And that's because the romance genre has consumed the fantasy genre. It has consumed the science fiction genre. It's consumed historical fiction. It's consumed mystery. It's consumed every other genre because that group of fans has incredible influence, not only over the written word and the writing community, but also over Hollywood, TV shows, films, because their tropes are starting to pop up in everybody's media. So this is a very, very powerful fandom, very powerful. Lots and lots of corporations will crawl over broken glass to appeal to the average female romance fan. And we'll just throw the male audience under the bus in order to do so. And the reason why I'm pointing this out is because this is big, very powerful fandom, gets what they want, and it has a persistent problem, not with objectification, which is this vague sort of thought crimey kind of thing, but with literal flat out sexual assault. These women in the romance community, this is a persistent problem. Their sexual entitlement has been a persistent problem for decades, never addressed because no one wants to hold them accountable. And yet, are they judged for their actual sexually assaultive behavior? As an entire fandom, are they judged for it? As an entire group of people consuming a particular medium of entertainment, are they being judged even though this is a persistent problem in their community that has yet to be addressed and eradicated, are they being judged? Are women being judged because they are the predominant consumers of romantasy and romance and all of this other stuff, which is basically written porn? No, they are not. For some reason, they get a get out of jail free card even when their community has a persistent problem with flat out sexual assault. Not just weird nebulous things like making dark jokes involving forced sex or objectification or liking boobies or boob armor or any of that stuff. No. Flat out sexual assault, and they still are not condemned. And incidentally, that's the first point I'd like you to. There is a first point summary. There is a female medium of entertainment that has a persistent problem with sexual assault, with the fans of that medium engaging in public sexual assault of male talent. That's the first point. The second point is that this current generation of women that is primarily responsible for turning every genre of fiction and most mediums of storytelling into its preferred type of basically romance or romantasy. This particular generation of women is 3 to 4 times more violent, sexually violent than any previous generation since we've been keeping track, and the current generation of men. Now, I want you to wrap your minds around 3 to 4 times more sexually violent. I'm not talking about sexual coercion. I'm not talking about, oh, baby, you'd do it if you would. I'm not talking about if you don't do it, if you cared about me, you would do it, or if you don't do it, you're gay. I'm talking about flat out use of weapons and threats, like if you don't do it, I'm going to send you to jail for on a grape charge, that kind of thing. Legitimate threats, flat out legitimate threats and weapons. 3 to 4 times more sexually violent than the men of their generation or any previous generation. And then the third point I want to bring up is that over the past 40 years, this incredibly sexually violent generation of women, most sexually violent group of people since we've kept track, their attitudes towards male victims of sexual assault have deteriorated over the last 40 years with the rise of the romance community eating everything in its path, right? So they have a genre that flat out has a persistent problem with sexual assault. No euphemisms. No, oh, that's sort of on a continuum with sexual assault. No, just flat out sexual assault. Powerful genre that's eating out every other genre and every other medium. Problem with sexual assault. Persistent problem that's been known for decades, right? 2, they are the most sexually violent group of people since we've been keeping track. 3, they have the worst attitudes towards their victims. These women of this generation have the worst attitudes towards male victims of sexual assault since we've been keeping track, right? So I just want to set the stage because we're about to be lectured to by one of the people in that group. And I think there was a Sargon's axiom. They accuse you of what they are guilty of. Now, just situate all of the talk about objectification and how men are actually sexually assaulting pieces of silicone. Apparently, this doesn't apply to dildos, just to pieces of silicone that men use. And just keep that in mind, that they are trying to make men's interest in anything, if it has any sexual component, on a continuum with sexual assault. Meanwhile, those 3 bullet points, just keep them in mind. So let's go.
By Nadia. When I was 16, a boy I met on holiday sent me a dick pic. I just got back from my first ever girls' holiday to the Canary Islands in Spain. The boy was in our activity camp for teenagers, and we'd become friends. I'd been chatting to him online with a girlfriend. I can't remember what we'd been talking about. Maybe people he fancied on the trip, or how things were going back home, and then, out of nowhere, there it was. His genitals in all their pixelated glory.
And then suddenly a dick pic. Completely out of the blue. right? Just you guys have been hanging out in a completely PG-13, playing, I don't know what, playing Pog. I think I've just dated myself with that reference. Running around on the beach, getting told by your moms to put some suntan lotion on, and then suddenly, bam, a dick pic out of nowhere. Did you not just delete it? Like, I mean, if it was that big a deal, I mean, honestly, I'm starting with a bit of doubt, but if there was really no preamble and this 16-year-old was sending you a dick pic, that, first of all, that's illegal. Just tell the police and they'll throw him in jail or something, right? For example, it's illegal because it's distribution of child pornography, even if it's the child in question distributing it. But just you could have done that, but you didn't. You don't avail yourself of the protections available to you, and they're there, right? They're there, and girls are very aware of those kind of protections. So I'm surprised you didn't avail yourself of them. Instead, we have this.
I remember my friend and I staring at it in horrified fascination. Why had he sent it? Nothing had happened between us on holiday. There was no romantic interest on either side. To be honest, we had
Good. Just out of nowhere. Okay. Was it an accident? Did he send it to the wrong person? Again, tell an adult. There are means to deal with this.
both wondered if maybe he was gay. It was
See, it wasn't meant for you. It was meant for Eduardo, right?
so weird. At that exact moment, my parents' aging computer screen had frozen, and we'd both panicked, desperately, trying to close down the window in case my parents showed.
Wait, okay, wait. He sent you a dick pic through email? Now, this was plausible when you were talking about like a dick pic on, I don't know, a messenger app on your phone, but through email? No. This is becoming less and less plausible by the second. You think what did he do? All right, let's see the steps, okay? I'm not sure how it works for a PC, but you'd have to take it with your phone, put it on your computer, and then send it through email, right? I don't know. I feel like this is becoming more implausible by the second. And also, just randomly, the screen of her parents' computer froze on the dick pic. Okay. I mean, if he'd snapped it and sent it through a phone, I'd be on board with that. But emailing it? Okay.
Up and saw us looking at a stranger's penis. Looking back, I can see that what happened that day was just a continuation of harassment I had received throughout my life.
Oh, good grief. We're just going to say that. Just going to state it.
The comments about my body, the slaps on my bum as I walked through a bar.
16-year-old walking through a bar. Where are your parents? Okay, so but this is she's recalling this at 16. Okay? Or she had the dick pic at 16. I guess maybe after all of this is happening, she's recalling it later when she was able to go into a bar. The timeline of this is very fuzzy.
The man who lived across the street from my family when I was growing up and who used to watch my sister and I getting undressed as children.
How where are your parents? Okay? Where are your parents? Right? Why? Okay, alternatively, why are you getting undressed in front of a window with your neighbor close enough that you can identify who is watching?
Close your curtains, my older sister had said darkly when I was 13.
Yeah, generally people, men have to do this too because otherwise they get charged with indecent exposure. What the? Okay, is anybody else feeling like this is deteriorating under the weight of its own something? Illogic? Like her older sister says, close the drapes while you undress. Generally a good policy just without you don't even need to have some neighbor peeping through the window at that moment, or at least close enough that you can identify who is actually looking at you. You don't have to generally good policy not to undress in front of open windows if you do not want to be looked at, right? You're lucky because you're not going to get arrested. Men will get arrested. Boys may get arrested. In fact, I remember a while back, this was hilarious. This was decades ago. It's hilarious, but dark and sort of horrifying. A woman with a telescope or with binoculars was spying on a man who was undressing in his own home, but the window was open. It was like, it was not easily visible from the street. You actually had to contort yourself a bit, find the right location on your balcony to peer in. And she did so, and she got him arrested for indecent exposure. Astounding, huh? Not real. Is it astounding? It's pretty believable to me, But anyway, you're not going to get arrested for indecent exposure. But if you don't want to be looked at, don't undress in front of your in your living room bay window. People might just gawk because it's a naked person, and naked people are funny.
And I'd lived in literal darkness until I left home for university. But
she lived in literal darkness. Literally. She's part of a culture that doesn't allow girls to have light bulbs until they get married.
There was also something markedly different about this, because now this ordinary boy, who was clearly far too scared or embarrassed to flash girls in real life,
was far too scared to flash girls in real. Right? Yeah. Okay. So instead of getting an indecent exposure charge, he sends you this dick pic. Maybe he did have an interest in you. He was just testing the waters. Like, guys, don't send dick pics. Like, just don't. But in this case, I don't know. It feels like there's something missing to preamble to this happening. Like there's some contextual stuff omitted. But the other thing is that, again, he didn't send a dick pic. He didn't just snap it and send it through like Messenger or WhatsApp or whatever, so that the Chinese can look at it and determine how useful it will be to destabilize Western civilization and then send it off. No, he snapped it. I don't know, like this, we're dealing with like what sounds like a cathode ray monitor. So he snapped it with I don't know, maybe a Polaroid if he's lucky. Maybe he got one of those things he has to send off the negatives. I don't know what period of time this is occurring at. But anyway, let's assume he snaps it with his phone, right? He snaps it with his phone. He uploads it to his computer and sends it via email. And they receive it because they're 16-year-old girls with an email address, and they're using it on their old parents' computer on their summer vacation in Spain, I think it was. And then the screen froze. Oh, that's really ballsy, sending dick pics through email, and not through like just the woman's email. You've got it on like a Tinder or whatever. Just some lady girl that you met who gave you your email, and then you just, I don't know. Am I just too old to understand this? I don't know.
Had a shiny new toy that meant he too could take part in the lad culture swilling around him. The internet had landed, and now.
Oh, so this is the beginning of the internet. I never heard about dick pics at the beginning of the internet, precisely because of the effort that you would have to do to actually send this stuff to somebody who you just randomly met. Like, you'd have to get their email. You'd have to take a dick pic. At the time, it was actually pretty difficult to get a shareable image. So, I mean, for a while there, at the beginning of the internet, you would literally have to send your dick pic over to be like, in a film reel to be developed. and then, have all of the like the film reel ladies in the back looking at this, and then send it back if you didn't get charged with something for sending pornographic materials through the mail. And then you'd have to scan it in, upload it to your family computer, and then send it through email. Nobody did that back then because it wasn't easy. So I mean, I don't know. The inconsistencies are mounting, so I'm not sure. I'm gonna just see what you guys have to say. I think you may have run into AI chat box slop prompted by a person. The chop in word use points to it. I think you're correct, sir. I think you're 100% correct. I think somebody did a prompt like, talk about dick pics sent at the beginning of the internet, because I don't remember that because I wasn't born. Well, I do. I remember just how hard it was to share a picture then. I'm not kidding. It was not easy. You still had to develop it, which meant you still had to send your reel of dick pics and send it to a bunch of people in a lab who would look at it as they were putting it onto the positives, and then send it back to you. And then you would have to scan it in and send it through email, all of which would take a hell of a long time and probably involve exposing your penis to more people. Like by the time it gets to this chick, it's as far as dozens of people have already seen it. Sort of takes it takes the rareness out of it. It takes the personal, like takes the intimacy out of it. This is slop. All right, let's listen to more, because obviously we now have misandry AI bots just churning out misandry slop. Let's see what you guys say on the horizontal. John Doe, this has to be fake. Okay, yeah, it has to be fake. But we're going to go, after I finish responding to this, and we're going to go look at the comments that are treating this dead serious, right? Well, I haven't read the comments, so I don't know. But this is what I am going to, this is the prediction that I am going to make. The comments are going to treat this dead serious. Now, we could be in some kind of weird Black Mirror dystopia where the slop is written by AI and the comments are written by AI, and God knows where the actual humans are. They're illiterate pupae and in being fed by tubes and floating in lukewarm amniotic fluid or something. But yeah, I'm betting. Okay, you guys can hold me to this. I'm betting that the comments are going to take this dead serious. Dead serious. We'll get there. I'll look at more of your, and I'll also check to see if there's some super chows. By the way, feedthebadger.com/justthetip. Send us a tip and a super chow. Memory cards readers were not really there yet. No, they weren't. Dead internet theory is probably real. 100%. We had digital cameras in the late 90s, but very low quality. Also still very difficult to get into a computer. 2 minutes to download a dick pic. Imagine if it's just all you get is the balls, right? And you're just sitting there when your parents walk in. I mean, not even the dignity of the shaft and the head, just the balls right there. The two girls, like balls on the screen. Parents walk in. Yeah, I could imagine that would be very traumatizing. They have 14.4K modem. Age, sex, location. Yeah, that's what we used to. He didn't even start with that. He just started with the dick pic on a modem, like a dial-up modem. Good grief, you've got mail. You realize that AOL would censor crap like that. I think AOL would have become a smoking ruin of a hole if any man ever sent a single dick pic at that point in time. Pixelated, maybe early camera phones. No, it is literally this sounds like the time where you have to actually send it out to get it developed. I remember in the late 90s, electronic phone, electronic or digital cameras were just really new. Nobody had them. Nobody. So if she's talking about dial-up, if she's talking about what I think she's talking about, sending things through email, dial-up modems and cathode ray tubes. No, there weren't commonly digital cameras at that time. So he's going to be taking a picture, like with his Pentax, sending it off to get developed, getting the positives back, scanning the positives onto his family computer because nobody had their own computer either at that time. Grandma comes in, what are you doing, little Eduardo? Oh, I'm just scanning my balls, Grandma. And then send it to this girl through email. Whoever prompted this, they really mixed up their technology and social behavior. Okay, because this only became a thing when there were cell phones. Oh, okay. John Doe. I lived next to a home with an older girl who always had her bedroom curtains open. Her window was right adjacent to mine. She was 16, 17. I was 13. Okay, well, you need to make sure that she goes to jail for exposure, for exposing herself to an underage child. I'm sure sure guys don't really want to do that, but that's the only way this is going to change. A few women need to go to jail for exposure, and then they will go back. They will long for the time when they were just objectified, rather than treated like their sexuality was a legal offense. Curtains weren't invented in the 2000s. But where are your parents and curtains? That is the question. This is the question I'm asking this entire time. Where are your parents? Everybody has the family computer, and this dude's sending a dick pic through email or from his family computer. Where are the parents? At that time, we still had them. In the 90s, we still had parents, guys. Slaps on your bum. Yeah, this 13-year-old girl is walking through the bar getting slapped on her bum. Yeah, this is AI slop, no doubt. Okay, but hopefully we'll find some real people in the comments. I use the term people really liberally. She probably thinks early internet was the early 2000s, 90s internet. What's that? Sarcasm? Huh. That's part of what gives it away from laborious cretin, the mix of timelines and cherry picking for the story narrative. Yeah, I mean, it's only getting really egregious, but again, we're going to find comments that take this completely seriously, dead seriously. Like dead seriously, like, oh, girlfriend, you are clapping back against the patriarchy, the dick picariarchy. Okay. I'll check to see if any of you have sent any super chows. Need some super chow music. Actually, I probably shouldn't check there because they might be intercepted by the voles. The voles might be being lazy. Let's see. I just have to open up WooCommerce. I'll just click the button and then we'll go back to this. Oh, nope. Okay, guys, feedthebadger.com/just-a-tip. Send me those comments and tips. I want to have a dialogue. Although I guess we are having a dialogue. I'm talking to you guys from your comments in the chat. All right, here we go. Some more.
Oh, anyone, anywhere could sexually harass girls from the comfort of their own home. Deepfake, real harms. It's been 22 years since that day, and I've watched with growing concern as technology.
2003. So it does sort of check out. Like the technology checks out, but the social behavior doesn't. Because again, 2003, there were more digital cameras around, but I think they were more likely to be with businesses or professional people. Like everybody didn't have a digital camera, and you still had the same problem because at that point in time, it was still the family computer. Some nerds might have their own computer, but mostly it was just a single computer. So you have to take the family digital camera, click, 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 load up your dick pic to the family computer. What, is he also using dad's email to send it to you? Or mom's email? Like, grief. Oh, man. Actually, 2003 wasn't a bad time for the internet. It was before special individuals like this were on it. Even the feminists were of better quality back then. They still were dogmatic and strident, but it was almost charming. It was almost more like dogmatic and strident, but but over coffee in the rumpus room with the stuffed chairs. Your Aunt Mabel, who's just a crazy feminist. But No, now it's just terrifying because they've infested everything. And instead of being a kooky eccentric, they're now the norm, which has mutated them into like some horrific toxic form. All right, so let's see. Noba fan says, I guessed right. I wasn't even trying. Just joined, saw the title. What exactly is your take? I think that everything, I think that feminists have said that every technological innovation is the next new frontier of misogyny. I'm pretty sure that when the printing press started, there were feminists saying this will lead to horrible outcomes for women. Hell, when Og invented fire, I'm sure Aga was standing there saying, but how am I a victim of this? That's what I think. All right. Let's continue. Or actually, no, I'll do some more reading. I had no reason to even look at the channel. You mean this channel? Quick. Okay. What Quick Silver Tongue seems to be having a little adventure in the horizontal chat. Oh, you just lost your old YouTube channel. Quick Silver Tongue. It was one of the last things I had left from before the house fire, and YouTube, you removed it for no good reason and didn't even inform me. Probably because you hadn't been using it for a while, or because you like people that they don't like. Okay. Yeah, it does it commonly. Like it just gets rid of old accounts. And the thing is that some people make accounts specifically to look at contraband material like this channel. And if you don't log into that account very often, they get rid of it. This might be one reason why we don't grow. That other reason is because this is difficult content for people to share. It's not an adventure, it's a crisis. Apologies. Quick Silver Tongue is having a crisis. Well, good luck with your appeal. Okay, let's look at let's continue.
Progress hasn't alleviated the problem of women's harassment, but has invented new ways for men to lean into predatory behaviors.
Okay. New ways of people exchanging information hasn't ameliorated the problem of women's harassment. Because every time we create a new way of exchanging information, you guys come out of the woodwork and say, you'll use that for harassment. And one of the reasons why you do it, again, I want to refer to those 3 bullet points that I gave at the beginning. 1, there is a female genre called romance that has persistent problems, not with sexualization or objectification or even sending coochie pics, a persistent problem with flat out sexual assault of talent at its events, an ongoing problem with the community of with women, sexual entitlement towards men's bodies. Okay. 2, we are living through the most sexually violent group of people ever, which is millennial and zillennial women. 4, these women have the worst attitudes ever towards male victims of sexual assault and violence. They're male victims of female sexual assaulters. And this is what they have to say. Once again, we have a new medium where people can exchange information and interact and have conversations. And it's women who are the most this is a new medium of harassment for women. You know why? Because you don't even recognize sexual assault of men. You don't take any responsibility for sexual harassment, sexual assault when men are the victims and you're the perpetrators. So you see every medium only as a vector of harassment towards women because you don't see the harassment of men or the sexual assault of men. So the entire problem is on you. Period. It's on your viewpoint that omits sexual abuse of men and constantly seeks out victimhood of every new technology that comes down the pike for women. Nobody can fix it but you.
Only recently, the UK, Australia, and Canada banned a video game called No Mercy, which encouraged men to commit rape and incest and be women's worst nightmare.
Did you, Brian, I don't know if you wanted to take part in this. I don't even know if you can, if you're listening. Did you want to talk about that, or shall I? Let me see if I can just share this other thing. Do you have any, like, a summary on what this was? Because I know that you do more game stuff. Okay, so, but anyway,
my mic to okay, there it goes. My mic wasn't being picked up by OBS.
okay.
As far as I understand it, it's basically a pornographic visual novel, and anyone can play it. And so, like, it's not like it's made like with only men in mind. So that's kind of a non-starter as far as I don't know anything about it. It was a visual novel that was somewhat interactive, I think, and Australia banned it. An Australian feminist group called Collective Shout.
Oh, the Collective Shout people.
Yes. They also went after games like Detroit Become Human and Grand Theft Auto 5. So, that's all. Yeah. That's all I know about it, really. I mean, all I know is like it's censorship, and they're claiming, something men, something women victims, but as far as I understand it, like there's probably as many women playing it as men. So,
Of course. Of course. So, and there's as many women using AI as men, but apparently all we have to care about is how women can be harassed. Okay, let's listen to a bit more.
One of the storylines reportedly involved impregnating a woman, forcing her to give birth, and then killing her and the child. And the invention of AI is bringing even more ways for women to be harmed. In her explosive new book, The New Age of Sexism: How the AI Revolution Is Reinventing Misogyny, author Laura Bates explains how we are witnessing a spike in deepfake pornography.
Oh, Laura Bates, the feminist teacher who sexualizes 12 to 13-year-old boys, in her weird, breathless recounting of sexual non-events. Like she's for the UK, she is like the point woman for ignoring the potential of 12 to 13-year-old or young 13 and younger old boys being predated upon by older women. Like she goes in there and she makes them take responsibility for rape culture, which means they lose their protections against older female predators. I remember like the adolescence is like one of the things that she was all over. And I remember having a discussion with a feminist about adolescence. And there's a scene where the boy is acting really erratic and aggressive and angry towards the female counselor. And this woman said, well, look at that scene. He has power over her. And she did it in response to me saying, talking about the sexual abuse of boys under the age of 13. Like the individual that me and Brian were talking about earlier, who was sexually groomed at 11, most likely sexually assaulted at 11 up to the age of 13. Well, 13 was when he impregnated his former teacher. And this woman was saying, well, a person like a boy like that, he could never be forced. Look at the boy in adolescence. The adult female counselor was afraid of him. So you're completely stripping any vulnerability from boys under the age of 13 when it comes to adult female sexual predators. And we wonder why this generation of women has the worst attitudes towards male victims of female sexual predators, since we've been keeping track of attitudes towards male victims of female sexual predators. Congratulations, millennial women and younger. Congratulations. You're definitely hitting some big milestones when it comes to sexually assaultive behavior and shitty attitudes towards male victims. Okay, let's hear some more boliviating from this AI.
AI generated hyper-realistic photos. and videos of individuals naked or engaging in sexual activities. It's an issue that has become an epidemic in just a few years.
As far as I know, the big platforms don't let you do it. Period.
With hundreds of thousands of images being created and shared as governments struggle to keep up with regulations. For adult victims, 99% of whom are currently women,
No. 99% of them are not currently women. If you're talking about revenge porn, of which AI generated content would be a subset, 99% are not women. And further, well, something like maybe 75%, but the vast majority of the perpetrators are women.
harms are myriad. From ruined reputations and extortion to photos of joyful memories being permanently.
Okay, she brings up extortion. 100% porn, revenge porn for extortion. That is a majority male victim situation.
Corrupted to paranoia about who did this and what they might do next. Imagine one of your most precious photos, like a photo of family event or an 18th birthday party, and then imagine someone has a copy of it, but you're naked in it and have no idea what they intend to do with it. These technologies will plunge women into years of trauma. And
because anybody can do anything with a photo of yours? Well, for like, again, she's not talking about the safeguards. AI doesn't do this. Like Grok doesn't do this. I'm pretty sure ChatGPT doesn't do this. The AI that you can purchase that can do anything at all is not going to do this. So what AI is she talking about?
no, this isn't the odd creepy teenager wanting to ogle female celebrities in lingerie. In research Bates,
Why is that a creepy thing? Like literally she's saying that a boy looking at scantily clad women is creepy. Is a girl looking at Chris Helmsworth creepy? Like this is some real scope creep, my dear. Now, if a man has a sexual feeling towards a woman, a boy has a sexual feeling towards a lingerie model, it's creepy. Yeah, I think you're biased.
cites the most common reason men give for using deepfake pornography is to see pictures of women and girls they know. She gives an example in Spain where schoolgirls were traumatized after being sent photos of themselves not wearing any clothes. It wasn't a sophisticated cybercriminal as police expected. It was boys in their class. Although, just to be clear,
Okay, and you got redress. Let's move on.
these technologies are being used by criminals liberally.
Yeah, they're being used by criminals because this is now a crime. It's called revenge porn. It is a crime. If you're a boy, don't do it because it's a crime. Right? If you're a girl, well, the criminal code for girls is more like a suggestion, like a polite suggestion, but don't do it because you're a sleaze. It makes you a disgusting human being.
Example, data shows there's been a 400% increase in AI-generated sexual abuse images of children in the UK since a similar time last year. Experts are now warning that
What AI generators are allowing this? I know that there are serious controls on the kind of content that they're allowed to generate. Like, where is this coming from?
feature-length films of abuse are inevitable. This is beyond harrowing.
Feature-length films of abuse. From where? Give us some receipts here. What AI platform is doing this? Feel free to open yourself up to a lawsuit, lady, because I'm pretty sure none of them are.
I spent years living in darkness because I knew I was being watched by a pedophile as a child.
I had to close my curtains while dressing and undressing, which is equating to living in years of darkness. Not the specific moments where I was dressing and undressing, but years of darkness. I couldn't bear to have a light on in my room, lest this alleged individual neighbor be able to see through the curtains into my lit room. Oh, good grief. The only way this is going to stop is if women like this go to jail for exposure. When they do shit like this. Like, no, keep your curtains closed, lady, because otherwise you're exposing your body and that is a crime. Nobody needs to see it. But years of dark, like what a martyrdom, hey? I had to close my windows. I had to close my curtains when I dressed and undressed. Therefore, I lived in years of darkness. Yeah, I do that too. Light, 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 light. I can turn light. Like I have full ability to turn all the lights on in this room. I don't live in darkness. Seems like that was a choice. Or alternatively, she's part of some sort of weird Mormon sub community where they only give women light when they become married or something.
If I had known that he had technology available to generate images and films of my sister, and with no way of tracking he had done so, I don't think I could have borne it.
How would you have known?
What's worse, with reports of an aggressive global expansion by one of the companies developing this technology, even more women and children are likely to fall victim to this chilling violation of their most intimate selves.
Okay, so once again, I'm going to repeat my 3 points from the beginning. There is an entire genre, majority female, whose community has a consistent problem, not with sexualization, not with deep fakes, not with all of this other stuff, but with flat out sexual assault of male talent. Nobody's talking about this, right? This is a big community. It commands a lot of money, billions and billions, commands a lot of mediums, it commands a lot of institutions related to creating literature, TV, films. It's going everywhere, right? They got a lot of clout and absolutely no oversight towards their behavior. And we have to pay attention to the possibility that there is some AI, like jailbreak AI, maybe something out there, some AI platform that really isn't associated with any organization that could potentially be creating porn of women without their consent. Although, why? But regardless, like, and also that we have to assume that it's only men doing this, only men engaging in this kind of revenge porn, when we know that women are the majorities of the ones who do that, which again, we don't talk about. Right? I'm just saying, like, this is a community. You can loosely call it a community of men who use AI, and they're be cast as a villain, a potential villain, because they might use some version of AI without these controls to create porn of little girls that really, really, really want to undress in front of windows without pulling the curtain, because otherwise they'll live in darkness. And they have to take responsibility for the potential of something they can do. The potential. And women do not have to take responsibility for the actual behavior of the community, like the romance community. Now, I would say that women don't. It's just the bad actors in the romance community that need to take responsibility for that. But you see how men are being expected to take responsibility for the potential of some men using a particular tool to use that tool for something bad, even though women are equally likely to use the tool for that bad thing too. Men need to take full responsibility for that. Women don't need to take responsibility for actual sexual assaults happening in a community that they dominate, and that is dominating the entirety of storytelling in the West at this point. Sort of a difference in accountability, don't you think? Like, all right, I'm going to pause. I'm going to talk to you guys. Let's see what you have to say. Boy, special chat's really quiet. Hello, special chat. I guess YouTube isn't serving this up, probably because we're talking about sexual assault. Oh, you guys are talking about the early internet. Lighting is patriarchy. Yes.
Well, someone in the special chat is asking a question. They're saying, just joined, saw the title. What
Yeah, I already
exactly is
answered that.
Did you already answer that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Laborious
And I
Cretan
got a super chow from the one good man.
Cool.
For $5,
Cool.
and he says, "Are unsolicited duck pics okay?" That's it.
Unsolicited duck pics are always okay. They're always welcome. We could always use some more duck in our life. In all of its capacities, as beautiful wildlife adorning a lovely wilderness scene, and also as a delicious food item. Okay, let us watch more.
I grew up in an era in which experts warned about the dangers of taking or sharing naked photos with a partner. Now, even if you've never had so much as a bikini shot
No, they didn't. If you were 13 in 2003, which is, I've been keeping track, my friend. I've been keeping track. You know, you were 16 in 2003. You did not grow up with experts warning people about naked photos, because your only option for naked anything was like home videos with VHS. Because even at that point in time, you had to send the photos out to be developed. Right. So nobody was warning people about this.
On a beach, photos of you having sex could be shared with everyone in your phone.
Oh God, this is total bullshit. I just realized. Like, oh, we dialed up our 14.4 modem. We had the dick pic filling in line by line by line on our parents, on our family's family computers cathode. This is bullshit. This is rewriting history. It's, oh, good grief.
They said AI was a democratizing force that would help anyone become a content creator, and they were right. Now, any one of us could be a victim. The women programmed never to say no. In 2017,
okay, now we're going to talk about women or men's sex toys, which, you know, they're sex toys. They don't have feelings. They don't have consciousness. And if they do, can we please talk about what women are doing to all those dildos? Right? They don't even have a mouth. Right? I must scream and I have no mouth. That's a dildo. That's the life of a dildo. Imagine what they're being shoved up into. Ugh. But now we're going to talk about men's sexual toys. Because while women as a group can't take responsibility for their favorite genre and the community associated with it consistently having the problem of sexual entitlement to their male talent, to having a bit of, you know, copying and feeling, you know, the men who come to romance conventions, they can't take responsibility for that. But men are going to have to take responsibility for the feelings of sex dolls, for the feelings of silicone rubber sex dolls. Guys, you got to take, women don't have to take responsibility for the living men who, I don't know why they do this. The men who go to their conventions as talent and are groped by the, and you know that women do this. Like, we've had all kinds of bouncers saying ladies' night is a freaking, it's a free for all. Right? And I don't know why male strippers go to these things, because it's like you guys are running a razor's edge there. And I'm not even talking about being sexually assaulted. That's just the baseline, right? You're going to get sexually assaulted by these women. Fine. One of them is going to get it in their head that you sexually assaulted her. That's going to be the end of your life. Why are you doing it? But anyway, so we have all of these reports from strippers, from bouncers, of how women behave towards strippers with male strippers with incredible disrespect and entitlement. We have stories from, for example, that one restaurant in Scotland that had men in kilts and how they had to change to the uniform to pants because the female customers kept taking liberties, lifting it up, having a grab, right? Because it's not sexual assault if it's a woman, right? Like, this is constant. And it's 100% in romance convention communities as well. Now, women don't have to take responsibility for that, but men have to take responsibility for the feelings of the men that they are harassing, the waiters, the strippers, the male talent in fantasy conventions that they are harassing. They don't have to take responsibility for that, but men have to take responsibility for the unshed tears of their silicone companions.
an AI sex doll called Samantha was molested by a group of men at the Arts Electronica Festival in Austria.
An AI sex or a sex doll was molested. Samantha, I'll share this. The Samantha sex doll molested Austria. Sex robot sent for repairs after being molested at tech fair. Okay, so essentially a floor model got busted. Women most affected, guys. We just read a harrowing account of this guy who went to a dark romantasy, sex, Sinners and Stardust. He gets cornered. He gets groped to the point where he can't even recognize the people who are groping him because there's so many people assaulting him. But let's feel for Samantha. So, what are you even calling it a name? Let's feel for silicone formed humanoid. But it really is. Well, it doesn't have any pain sensors and has no consciousness. But people, yeah, they touched it until it broke. Just like they touch any floor model until it breaks. Because the public is like that. It's grubby. Okay, so according to the Metro, the doll's developer, Sergio Santos from Barcelona, complained the people mounted Samantha's breasts, her legs, and arms. People. 2 fingers were broken, and she was heavily soiled by a barrage of male attention at the Arts Electronica Festival in Linz, Austria. Heavily soiled, so it's probably a little dirty. However, it seems that Samantha was not built for any kind of physical interaction that she encountered at this global tech fair, which this year focused on artificial intelligence. People can be bad, said Santos, because they do not understand the technology and did not have to pay for it. They treated the doll like barbarians. The incident is likely to further fuel debate over the growing popularity of AI sex dolls. Okay. Well, what about women? Because women are going to be buying this too. So essentially, we're looking at a marketplace that also includes women because women are already using AI boyfriends. They're going to be using AI sex dolls, guaranteed, right? But of course, only men have to take responsibility for the dark side of it. Okay. Meanwhile, okay, so they're talking about brothels that use sex dolls. All right, so the rest of it is so apparently a sex doll. Well, but the thing is, if you're putting it in the public, it's gonna get like it's gonna get touched. Like people know this whether or not it's like a sex doll or an art installation. People will palpate it because that's what people do. All right, let's keep going.
According to the Metro, the doll's developer was shocked that people mounted Samantha's breasts, her legs, and arms. 2 fingers were broken. She was heavily soiled. Welcome to the world of intelligent AI-powered sex robots. Lifelike, largely female-looking robots who can respond to questions and moan when touched in intimate areas, but can't say no, scream, cry, or beg someone to stop. This is the latest sickening development in the AI canon, a blossoming industry built around AI sex robots. That, as one writer for the New Statesman put it, are specific.
Are you freaking mental? Okay. Again, are we going to have some tears for all the dildos? These are not living things. AI does not think like humans. We don't think stochastic recombination of binary data. It's not how we think. AI is not sentient. No matter how much people think that it is, it isn't. And certainly it doesn't. If it does have sentience, it has nothing akin to what humans are. And furthermore, if that's a problem, then ban AI. It's like you want these dolls to be able to say no, but like, don't you think that that's going to become an attraction to a certain class of male and female clientele? Why would you want that? Like, it's just a sex toy. Could you take responsibility for the feelings of actual real life human men? You know, the strippers, the guys in kilts, the men at conventions, the talent at conventions. Could you guys take responsibility for that before you expect men to take responsibility for a bunch of silicone in the shape of a human?
Designed to eroticize non-consent.
What? So if you have a doll that emulates consent for a man, if it doesn't show non-consent to the man, like if the doll doesn't, the man comes close and starts screaming rape, then that's eroticizing non-consent. If the doll is consenting, it's eroticizing non-consent. And again, men have to take responsibility for something that is going to be equally available to women. They can equally engage in non-consensual behaviors, and considering what they do with actual living male staff, and at restaurants and strippers and talent at romance conventions, they will be doing it. But it's men that have to take responsibility for the treatment of sex bots in the future, not women, only men. And also they're not going to take responsibility for the real life men that they're sexually assaulting. Nah, that's no.
They are overwhelmingly used by men acting out sexual fantasies.
Yes, because you don't define a dildo as a sex toy. Because women apparently don't want the man attached to the penis. They just want the penis. And that says something good about them. Because you cannot humanize women's sex toys at all. They're completely dismembered from the actual human that possesses them. Men are the ones that are dehumanizing women.
On women. Those fantasies can get incredibly dark, as Bates details in her book, Dolls.
Yes, anything can get incredibly dark because there are sociopaths, both male and female, with dark fantasies.
Covered in blood, dolls depicted without a head, dolls of prepubescent girls. When Bates went to a cyber brothel in Berlin and asked for a sex doll featuring clothes whose clothes had been ripped, it was delivered, no questions asked.
Why would it? Oh, that could also indicate passion, but also why would they be questioning the sexual interests of a woman? Do you want them to say no to her?
The creators cashing in on this market argue that these dolls don't harm women, and that they even make women and children safer by channeling the perverse sexual fantasies of male buyers.
The perverse sexual fantasies, but which women are not. They don't engage in those kinds of things. No, they just have a convention for them called Sinners and Stardust, in which, they flatly sexually assault the talent. And nobody's going to jail for that. The convention organizers aren't even going to resign over it. No, they're making a few changes, guys. They promise it won't happen again. And of course, we know it's a persistent problem in that entire community. But no, women aren't going to they're not going to take responsibility for that. Men have to take responsibility for the perverted fantasies of a small number of men who might use sex dolls to enact those perverted fantasies. But women might do the too, but we don't need to look at that. And again, most sexually violent group of people in history since we've been keeping track, these young women, and worse attitudes towards male victims of sexual assault in history. And these people are lecturing men about keeping their dark desires in check.
Into a safe outlet. But this is hugely disingenuous. As feminists have argued, these dolls feed a culture that is already deeply misogynistic and help normalize the idea that women are objects who exist solely for male gratification.
Again, anywhere where there's the slightest hint that something could exist for male sexual gratification, beautiful women in games, pinup women on shirts, AI sex dolls, anything. We have a whole bunch of moralizing about how men need to take responsibility for the perverted sexual fantasies of a minority, right? And then we have an entire genre devoted to women's perverted sexual fantasies in a greater community that's all about women's sexual fantasies, that has a persistent problem with sexual violence towards men. But that's okay. Women don't need to take responsibility for that. Are you seeing the difference in accountability here? Like, men aren't even doing anything to women. They're just having fantasies. They're just having sex dolls. They aren't even necessarily doing anything aggressive with those sex dolls, right? But they have to take responsibility for the minority of men who might do it. But women don't have to take responsibility. Do it to a silicone model of a human, right? But women don't have to take responsibility for their sexual genre, their porn genre that has a persistent problem with sexual entitlement to the male talent. They don't have to take responsibility. No. Sexual responsibility is only for men. And we live in a patriarchy that entitles men to not take sexual responsibility. Men are the only group of people who take sexual responsibility. They're the only group. Women take none. None. And the reason why she's spouting off about this is because men will take responsibility. Men will listen to this and be like, oh yeah, I should feel guilty about some hypothetical group of men treating a lump of silicone badly. I should take responsibility. I should make sure to police those men, right? That's why she's spouting off about this. And this culture of male sexual entitlement, in this culture where men don't take responsibility for their sexual behavior when it impacts women. And then there's another thing. She's part of a continuity because what she's saying is a presentation of a feminist framework around domestic violence and sexual assault, which is that men use domestic violence and sexual assault to uphold patriarchy and maintain their privileges, right? Okay. Now, strangely enough, she's allowed to opine about how men have to take responsibility in this society that wants the exact opposite to happen, right? And it's commonly seen everywhere. Slut walks, take back the night walks. They're all condemnations of men's sexual behavior and how it impacts women. Like, we haven't heard the end of that for the last 50 years. Nowhere is the conversation about women's sexual entitlement and how it impacts men. You think in a society where okay, I used this analogy before. In the past, peasants were not allowed to have swords. So the lords made it illegal, like the aristocracy made it illegal for peasants to possess swords because they wanted to maintain a monopoly over the means of force in their societies, right? If you say that patriarchy uses sexual assault to maintain itself, then sexual assault is the means by which the monopoly of force, essentially. And yet, for some strange reason, the only conversation about sexual force, taking responsibility for sexual force, and being blamed for it is directed towards men, not women. But if you think about it, women should be bearing the brunt of condemnation of their use of sexual force because they're appropriating the sword of patriarchy. But that's not what happens, is it? Because it's bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. She's just manipulating men because she knows that men will police other men. Men will take responsibility. And she herself feels like she has to take none, or she never will take any. Because she's irresponsible, she's sexually irresponsible, and women generally are not expected to take responsibility. Except here. All right, I'm going to see what you guys have to say, see where we're at. Okay. Boy, the YouTube's really killing this. It's probably because we're talking about sexual assault. Specifically sexual assault of men. Nobody wants to talk about that. Everybody hates the topic. Okay, John Doe says, and they claim we're the ones who objectify them. Every accusation is a confession. Yes. Every accusation is a confession. And the reason why they accuse men is because men listen to expectations of responsibility when it comes to their sexuality towards the opposite sex. Women don't. At least I haven't seen it on any wide scale. Like if women had taken responsibility, what happened at Sinners in Stardust would be something that the community, not only would it end that convention, and somebody would be sued, and people would be going to jail, but the entire romance community, it would be a black eye for the entire romance community, and there would be significant oversight to make sure that shit like that didn't happen. It never does. They just keep assaulting their male talent, and it never ends. It never stops. Nobody ever says, hey, maybe you should not do that with any kind of force. They say, maybe you should not do that, but we're going to continue because it's just men. All right, let's continue.
When Bates visited chat rooms of men who own these dolls, she found a huge amount of violent sexist banter. There is also the observation from experts that sexual violence can escalate. The more that someone engages in abusive behaviors, the further they have to go to get the same high. Just as studies show that serial killers can graduate from killing animals to killing humans, AI dolls could become starter kits for future rapists and murderers who no longer get the same kick out of abusing silicone dummies.
Can we have the conversation about how dildos are starter kits for female sexual assaulters? Can we have that conversation? Is there any space for that? That maybe cutting off a penis is shorthand to dehumanizing men in general, like just having the disembodied penis is a shorthand to dehumanizing men. Is there room for that conversation? No.
That's why, even though AI sex dolls are in their infancy and might not seem like a pressing crisis if we don't act, we could find ourselves in the midst of an even greater epidemic in sexual violence.
Greater epidemic than the ones that's being perpetrated by younger women themselves. You know that they never talk about that, right? Never. Like if they had found that young men were 3 to 4 times more likely to engage in violent sexual assault than previous generations, we would never hear the end of it, ever. It would have run across the media landscape like wildfire. If we had found that young men's attitudes towards female victims of sexual assault had regressed, we would never hear the end of it. It would be all over the media like wildfire, right? Look at this. We could be seeing men have to take responsibility for a potential epidemic as a result of the use of female sex bots, of sexual aggression against women. But nowhere do we see women having to take responsibility for the actual epidemic of young women engaging in violent sexual assault and their deteriorating attitudes towards their victims. Nowhere. Guys, you got to take responsibility for the potential. It's like a woman doesn't have to take responsibility for her actual actions that she's taking right now, but men have to take responsibility for their potential actions. Like if she hits you, you have to take responsibility for not hitting her back. Your potential, even if she hits you, you made her afraid because you have the potential to do so much more damage. Therefore, it doesn't matter that she hit you. I've actually had that logic, right? That because men are so much greater potential for aggression, it doesn't matter if women's actual actions in the moment to cause violence. And that was said after a woman killed a man. Because he was so strong, it justified her killing him. His potential for violence justified her murdering him. Men's potential for maybe becoming more sexually aggressive as a result of sex dolls, but only men's, that justifies ignoring it doesn't justify. I mean, nothing justifies. They don't need to justify it. We're just going to continue to ignore the fact. Like if this continues, this exponential increase in women's sexual aggression continues, like what the frick's going to happen? I guess we'll just continue to ignore it. What am I talking about?
Coming years. I have nieces, and I fear what their experience of relationships, love, and dating could be like after vulnerable boys have been exposed to products like these for years. What will the world look like when men raised on Andrew Tate have been using these things for a decade? Stop calling this.
Well, so far, women are still outpacing men with the sexual violence by 3 to 4 times. So at what point do you At what point do you start to care, really? As long as women are doing 3/4 of all the incredibly violent sexual assaults, is that? But if women start doing like 2/3, then it's a problem because the male proportion is increasing. I don't know.
Progress. Sometimes I think about the long arc of history and all the ways predatory men have abused, harassed, violated, and killed women and children. From the woman in Malta.
And then we're going to trot out, in order to buttress this claim, we're going to trot out all of our sources of guilt. Like, instead of citations, these women just have anecdotes to make you feel guilty as men. And of course, they don't have equivalent anecdotes for women because they don't keep track.
In 1486, whose vicar pressed her to have sex with him whilst she was saying her prayers.
Okay.
To the British woman who earlier this year had to stop running because she kept being followed home by male strangers. I picture the victims, thousands
I wonder why that's happening.
upon thousands of them, from babes in arms to wizened elders,
To wizened.
stalked, preyed on, flashed, molested, raped.
So now she's buttressing all of this with this thought experiment. How about we imagine all the men sexually assaulted by women who know that if they say anything about it, not only will their identities as men be called into question, which is a funny patriarchy that arranges men's identities to be sexual conveniences for women. They'll know their identities as men are going to be questioned, but also they could go to jail as the assaulters and be seen by their community as the one who actually was the sexual aggressor. Let's imagine that, guys. Generations and generations of sexually assaulted men who were also seen as the aggressors. Let's add a little twist there. Lost everything because they had the audacity to be raped by a woman.
Lied on, abused, killed, catcalled, leered at. It happened then, and it's happening now, still. And it's
Sinners and Stardust. It's going to continue to happen. It's going to continue to happen in the romance community. That's just one. It's one place.
getting worse. The situation is so bad that police in my country in the UK are calling the current rate of violence against women a national emergency.
That's because you classify all violence against men and boys as violence against women.
With a staggering 2 million women a year subjected to sexual violence out of a total population of 30 million.
And how many of those are men and boys? Because again, like you guys know that the UK classifies male victims of certain forms of violence as victims of gendered violence, thus women. And they lump them into their statistics on violence against women. Some patriarchy, huh?
That is a national disgrace. And yet everywhere, all I see are people talking up AI and how it represents progress. A future with AI is net positive. AI is going to save the world.
So now she's complaining about all the tech bros talking about how wonderful AI is because there's an edge case where AI could be used by a tiny minority of men to enact their dark fantasies. It could also be used by a small minority of women to enact their dark fantasies. But he's just counting with that. It's just the men, right? It's just the potential that men have. That's all we care about. And now she's tilting at all the people who are excited about AI. Because potentials, guys, dark potentials.
AI represents the next leap in prosperity. They call it progress. But progress for who? Progress for women and children doesn't just mean improvements in healthcare, work, and travel. It means improvements in safety, justice, and freedom. But I can't recall ever seeing a tech bro evangelizing about how AI is going to revolutionize those areas. Instead, it seems like every upgrade of our social fabric only makes life worse for us. And no wonder when technology, which for some bizarre reason has become a synonym for progress, is still a field almost entirely.
What the hell do you think? She doesn't like the idea that technology is progress. She's going to give her opinion of progress.
Dominated by men. How can you build a future for all of humanity when half the population aren't even in the conversation? This, then, is what progress looks like for me. It is a world in which women don't have to take down online photos of themselves, as I did last week, in case someone tries to exploit them. A world where you're not worried about joining the metaverse.
Someone purged your OnlyFans.
Because you Have no idea if you're going to be verbally or physically attacked.
Okay, everybody has that problem. And we have the receipts to prove it. And also a lot of the perpetrators are women.
A world where you're not scared a man you're seeing might unexpectedly strangle you during sex.
Okay. This is something that men do because a lot of women ask it of them. Alternatively, they are sociopaths, but at least you know you can get out of the situation.
A world where you're not nervous about meeting someone off a dating
Wouldn't you just be nervous because you're meeting a new person who might be a romantic partner, though?
app in case they've been reported as a rapist without your knowledge.
Well, then check the sex offenders list.
And a world in which a 16-year-old girl who's just arrived back from holiday thinking she made a friend doesn't come home to a photo of someone's dick and a very rude awakening about the state of the world and her place in it.
Yeah, this guy, 2003, he sent out his dick pics to be developed, scanned them into his family computer, and sent it to her on email to her family computer. The timeline for this technology and behavior is all wrong. Okay, so that's that. Let us look at the comments. I'm going to share this tab. Let me see how it looks. I'm going to just see how it looks, so make sure that you guys can see this. Laborious Creepton says 95% sure it's AI collating a set of talking points from the feminist grouping and pushing a flawed perception. Yeah, I'm finding that little story about the dial-up modem and the dick pic to be very yeah, I'm not buying that. Not buying it. Okay, let's see if there's any super chows. Nope, still just the unsolicited duck pic. And let me just poke the voles. We'll go into the comments in just a second. I'm going to poke the voles, see what they have to say. And looks like nope. Nobody has put anything through. Feedthebadger.com/justthetip for a tip and a comment. You can also do super chats if you want, if you're feeling lazy, which I don't blame you. They're afraid the bots will, John Doe, they're afraid the bots will replace them. Yeah, pretty much. Okay, let's go into the comments. Okay, so I just need to change this a little bit. No, I can't. Let's see if, okay, that's just sex bots. Okay, here we go. I'm going to share this one. Let's see if I can just expand this so you can see it. This is the original article if you're interested. I just want to make sure that this is looking good for you guys so you can read along at home. Yeah. Okay, so all right. Okay, that's good. It's good on the horizontal. Let me check the vertical. Takes a little while for everything to catch up. Okay, the vertical is a little bit, I need to move it over here. Okay. Guys, is this good, guys? Are you ready? Shall we dive into the comments? See what they have to say? Would you prefer to be spared? All right, we're going in. This is the article. No responses yet. Well, gosh darn. I've been amping this up and there's no responses yet. When did this come out? 4 days ago. Wow. Maybe people are like recognizing that this is nonsense. All right, let's see what else she's got. You deserve to be proud of how far you've come. Give yourself the grace you deserve. A person who's okay with being alone is a powerful person. Eating with my hands doesn't make me less civil. What? Why are you guys all degenerating? Like, my secret addiction started with good intentions. AI is when a woman. Okay, freaking good lord. Okay, so this is just slop. I bet this isn't even a real person. Let's take a look at her. Guys, don't make any deep fake porn about this woman. No image. What do you want to bet this is just complete AI from stem to stern? Yeah, she's just starting up, guys. No comments. None. Sorry, I couldn't give you more cancer. How many responses have been erased? All the negative ones, guy. All of the negative ones. All right. What can I say? I suspect most of this medium stuff is just AI itself. So it's AI calling out AI. Dead internet theory confirmed. It's AI brain rot, says Doe. Vincent says, I hope our movement grows because currently there is no person who has a lot to lose, celebrity, rich person, politician, etc., is willing to be openly anti-feminist. No, not even the conservative ones. Maybe Donald Trump goes closest. But yeah, no, not overtly anti-feminist. And it's because feminism props up a lot of the elites. Let's be honest. If you want to find an elite who wants to destroy or is anti-feminist, you want to find an elite that's basically willing to chop down their own pedestal. All right, so I think that we'll leave it here because sorry I couldn't give you more cancer. I could probably find more from another location to give you, but I'm not feeling it. Okay, so if you want to send a message, feedthebodger.com/justtip anytime after the show is over. Very much appreciated. Send a tip and a message. If you want to support our event, feedthebadger.com/events. Consider coming as well. If you RSVP, I'll be sending out the location to anybody who sends me an email. All right. Good grief. This was AI is giving misogyny an upgrade. And it's about exactly what you thought. Men have to take responsibility for the potential for AI to be used in ways that could harm women sexually. Women do not have to take responsibility for the current rate of sexual assault that the current generation of women is engaging in, nor do they have to take responsibility for their particular genre of porn and how the community around it acts in incredibly sexually aggressive and entitled ways towards the male talent. So men have to take responsibility for their potential for sexual harm. Women do not have to take, not even their potential for sexual harm, the potential for sexual harm of a new medium of human expression as used by a small subset of sexually violent men. But women do not have to take responsibility for their current rates of sexual violence, nor the sexual violence they engage in their predominant form of pornography. There you go. All right. So I want to thank you for your kind attention. I know this is a difficult topic, an extremely aggravating topic, but it's an important one because feminists keep using the alleged greater sexual risk that men pose as a rhetorical bludgeon against them. I will, if you would, please like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, share because sharing is caring. Put in a comment below. Send your thoughts to feedthebadger.com/justtip and have a lovely evening, afternoon, whatever you are, wherever you are. Have a good one. See you in the next one.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.